then 4 minutes from now, what's going to happen is John Barrows is going to jump in, coming in on 2 wheels, probably pretty hot. He's going to be joining us after doing a sales training for a client. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. Like, I got to tell you, in today's world, the importance of the SDR role, how to manage your own time, how to stay productive, and those types of things are just incredibly important. I know as leaders and managers, a lot of times we run into just this problem about trying to figure out where we should put our investments and put our resources. And so it's interesting when I talk to sales leaders, gosh, all throughout the country, and we've talked to some in Tel Aviv and in Europe and some other countries, and it all kind of comes back to the same question. One of the things that comes up often is, where do I put our money from a sales resource perspective? So we'll talk about that today a little bit. I'll push John on, hey, what's going on? Where do you think this money should be spent? Because I think the answer might differ. It might surprise some of you. So like I said, you can see on the clock here, we got about 2 minutes, 50 seconds or so. I expect John to be in here right around 4 o'clock, like I said, screaming in after doing a sales training. But wanted to get up and get live so you'd have a chance to see it. Do me a favor. As we go through today, kind of share your comments with us. Let us know what you're thinking. If you have questions, you have comments, you have questions, we'd certainly love to hear those. And the way this live stream is set up, it's set up so that we can go ahead and see your questions, your comments, those types of things as they come in. And maybe we'll even be able to throw it up on the screen and adjust it and talk a little bit about what it is that you have on your mind, because those are the important things. John and I do a lot when it comes to separately and believe in a lot of the same things when it comes to how do you serve the sales community. And I think the number one thing that's changed between now and a couple of decades ago is this simple fact. And that simple fact is this, is now I believe that you put the information out in the marketplace, right? And let people start to dissect and think about it. In the old days, if we had services that you could use, what might we do? In the old days, what that might have looked like is that might have looked like us just hoarding that info and waiting for you to come to us so we could give you more of it. But ultimately, what we're doing now is that's not the way it rolls. So right now, what we're doing is we're willing to get there, have any conversation that you want to have about this. So please, if you're watching us on LinkedIn, you're checking us out on Facebook or YouTube or even Periscope and Twitter, ultimately jump in here, ask some questions, let us know. I do have one request. So if anybody else is there, and that's the bell for the stock market, if anybody else is here, one request that I do have is this. Let me know if you can hear us or if you're having a problem with the audio. We did one last week with Ronell Richards, which was awesome. We talked about everything about what's going on socially today to how businesses should respond. So we talked about a lot of different things. And somehow on all of the streams but LinkedIn, we ran into a little problem where all the streams but LinkedIn ran into a problem where the audio wasn't being broadcast appropriately. And so we're doing this for you guys and to have a conversation. So if you're having trouble hearing it or anything, please just fire away, shoot a couple comments, let us know that you're out there. We'd certainly love to know that you're there and watching. So I know that John will be in here in just a minute, and we'll get fired away on what it is to go out there and kind of kill it in the world of sales. So hang with me for just another minute. John will be here in just a second. We'll talk in a second. Alrighty, hang with us here for just a minute. Waiting for John Barrows to jump on the call with us and join us. So we will see what we can do here. He's rolling out of a training, and so we're working pretty quick, making sure that we can keep this thing rolling for you guys. So we'll talk about a few of these awesome questions. I know one that John's going to love to jump on is, all the tech companies seem to be telling you that you can personalize at scale. We'll see what John seems to think about that one, because I've got my own opinions, and I'm wondering whether or not you actually can accomplish that or not. So stay right with us. We'll get going here in just a second, and we will look forward to rocking and rolling. Alrighty, so if you're seeing this pop up in your feed, we're about to get started. So jump in here, give me some comments. What are you thinking about the world of sales, about staying busy? What questions do you have about how you run your sales teams? What questions do you have about how you can act as a sales leader? And hey, you're out there selling it and you're grinding it. You're an SDR, you're an enterprise rep, you're an AE. What's going on in your world? What are the things that you're struggling with, or what are the things that you're finding that are working really, really well for you in the market today? Because I can certainly say the market today has changed pretty substantially. Oh, and here we go. We got John Barrows joining. I was just talking through a little bit here, my friend. Hold on one second.
You there?
Yeah, I am. Stay with me. Stay with me.
Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I got my mic right.
That's all right. And we are making sure that I get you in here to the video. So everybody stay here. Well, John, I think they can hear you. They can't see you yet, so give me a second here, brother, while we're doing that. Say hello as we start this live stream. I was just priming them for a little bit of what we're going to do today. Getting people a little bit fired up.
How is the video working now?
It's going to in just a second. I don't know what the deal is here. Hold on one second.
Yeah, sorry for being a couple minutes late.
No, you're perfectly fine. You're all right.
All right.
Let's make sure we're jumping. Yeah, no, your video is off right now. Virtual camera's on and Gcam live.
How about now?
No. Okay. Oh, hang on a second. I got it. All right. Hold on. We're coming, everybody. We are coming. This is the pleasure of live. All right, here we go. Maybe. All right, select Gcam live virtual.
HD Pro webcam. Yeah, I think mine's on the right settings, I think.
Yeah, you're probably close. Mine's goofing up for a second here. We may even come back to this in a moment. Hold with me. Everybody stay around. Here's the good news. They know we're here, John, so they will be patient for how wonderful this is. This is like bad radio is what this really is. Back in the days, right?
I can see you.
Yeah.
I can see my video show up, but for some reason it's not showing up. So we can just jump in. I mean, if you want to take just the audio part of it.
Yeah, hold on one second here. I am wanting to give me 2 more seconds because it's not showing my. The problem is it's not showing the virtual camera it's supposed to show. All right, so I'm going to look for comments. Anybody out there? Hey, John, say something here. Let me see if people can at least hear you at minimum.
Yeah, I can. Hopefully, people are hearing me too because I got my microphone set up.
Yep, you sound.
And see if anybody else can actually see me here too.
Yep.
Outside of you.
Yeah, well, all right, we are fixing as we go. See, here, I thought it was going to be all brilliant, John, because I got on here for about 3 minutes, was hyping everybody up. And then, of course, the second you're here, I'm supposed to hit one button and have you come over. And then you're supposed to come on. All right, here we go. All right, Scott. All right, hold on, stay with me as I show people how inept I am at stuff. Settings. All right. Stay. All right. So how was your training? Tell us a little bit. Hey, so I want you to do this because they're hearing you right now while I'm fixing this and I'm on the fly. So tell us a little bit about what you were training on today. I know you're coming out of a 2-hour training. Love to hear that.
Yeah, it's all prospecting. So I think right now, we train, all aspects of the sales process, but the hottest thing right now is prospecting because everybody's having a real hard time cracking through that noise.
Yeah.
And so, this was our first kickoff of, really digging into the new ICP, the new personas, that we're going after, the new challenges and priorities that people are dealing with these days, and crafting some messaging around stuff that's going to hopefully crack through, break through the noise. So that was the main focus on today's session that I just got off of.
So what's different? So tell me a little bit about that. We're going to jump into this. What's different today than it might have been 9 months ago?
Everything. I think that right now I'm watching stuff change faster than ever in sales as far as what works and what doesn't work, because I think everybody is so desperate to find something that does work that as soon as they hear something on LinkedIn or whatever it is, they'll blast out to 1 million people, and it just doesn't work anymore. Easy examples is back in March when this all first hit. It was, hey, lead with empathy, right? So it was like, hey, I hope you and your family are doing well. And then 2 days later, every single email that was in my inbox was, I hope you and your family are doing well. And it just kind of lost its effectiveness, because once something gets overused, I don't care how good or bad it is, it's going to be seen as a technique or whatever. So I think that the other thing is that, the bottom up versus top down approach, and really being truly insightful into people's businesses as opposed to taking guesses. We guess a lot in sales. It's like I'm looking at your website and I see something happen there. So I think you could probably be in the position to use my resources, or hey, you're a VP of sales in the SaaS industry and this is what I think your challenges are. So is that worth a conversation? Now, don't get me wrong; those are better than pure template emails about how great we are. But it still lacks the true insights into the business. And so, as much as a top-down seller as I've always been, go after the executive, tie into their initiatives, get referred down, work with the team down below, and then bubble it back up top. Now, the opposite approach is actually more effective for us, where we go talk to frontline individuals and gather insights. We don't try to build them as champions or anything like that. It's you don't want to go too far low to try to build that groundswell, but we look for intelligence. What's happening right now? What are the real challenges your business is facing, so that we can collect that information and then have a much better story to tell up top when we start prospecting at that level, and have more real information. And I think the companies and the sales teams right now that are becoming scientists, who are really looking at data and testing and trying different approaches, and working closely with marketing to see what sentiment there is out there and how their existing customers are using their product today versus 6 months ago. Those are the ones who are becoming more agile, and also the ones who are going to be more successful coming out of this.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me this then. To me, that sounds like, does that mean that you're also taking longer? Does that mean that naturally the SDR role is taking longer because you're working from the bottom up instead of trying to get to an economic buyer level, but you're willing to start at a much lower level in the org?
Taking longer to what? To get a meeting?
Yeah, to get a meeting, to get something,
Yes, but it's quality over quantity these days more than anything. I think the with where we are, there's some data out there on HubSpot about how when COVID hit, the volume of emails went through the roof, and the response rates went through the floor. Same thing with calls. Volume went up, response rates went down. And so the problem I'm seeing right now is that a lot of executives or leaders are reacting to that poorly, in that they're seeing that their numbers are down. And so their response to that is, or their conversions are down, so the response to that is double down on the volume, right? If we were making 50 dials, let's make 100 dials. You know what I mean? We got to get that number up there. But A, that crushes your addressable market and it pisses more people off than anything. B, that's more marketing's job than anything else. And C, quality matters now. Because I don't think there's too many executives out there that are interested in listening to some 22, 23, 24-year-old kid who's going to ask them band questions. Right? We got to come with a perspective. We got to come with thought. We got to come with research. And it might take longer, but the conversion ratios are going to be higher. I mean, I don't know if I talked to you, Ken, after I came back from my vacation, but when I came back, I took a 2-week vacation. Right? And for the first time in my life, I did not check emails. Like, didn't check email once. Okay. It was real liberating. I clear my mind and everything else. But when I came back, I had 2,040 emails. 2,040, okay? Which, I got to tackle these.
Yeah.
What I decided to do was I decided to put them into buckets and say, okay, where are all these emails coming from? And which ones are actually meaningful, right? And so there was LinkedIn notifications, list service that I was on, marketing emails, and then there were sales emails. And I considered a sales email when somebody basically wanted to get a meeting with me to sell me some product or whatever it is. I got 78 sales emails, okay?
Yep.
Which I thought it was actually going to be bigger than that in general, but the one that really stuck out to me was not a single one of them was personalized.
Huh.
No, not one. And I think, for me, I feel bad because I've been doing this for 10 years, training people on personalization and how to do real quality outreach and all that other stuff. And I'm like, people are probably sick of hearing me. Everybody gets it. Personalization matters, blah, blah, blah. But it's pretty evident that still not too many people are doing it. People talk about personalization at scale. Bullshit. I'm calling I just wish people would stop talking personalization at scale. You can't scale personalization. You can be efficient with personalization. Right. You can be targeted, but you can't. Personalization is personalization. That means it's the only email I could actually send to you, Ken, and I can't send this to 15 other people with a simple find replace on your name. And so I think the silver lining for me with all this mess that we're in right now is my hope is that it's going to recenter us and get us back to paying attention to what matters, right? Which is, quality, giving a shit, actually doing a little bit of research, being relevant, because that's the other piece of this. Personalization is good, but without relevance, it's useless, right? Fake personalization, like, hey, John, I see you went to University of Maryland, go Terps, right? And then hard cutting into some piece of crap value proposition that has nothing to do with what I would need. That actually does more harm than good. But when you can connect personalization and relevance, that's where you can start to make a real impact and get people to pay attention.
Okay, so we got two things. A is now everybody can see your face. So hopefully they listen because you dropped some great gems there. So now they can see your face too. So now when you're flipping me off and stuff, they will know that you're actually doing it. So I just want to call that out. Second is, all right, so talk to me a little about this. So it's interesting when you talk about the idea of personalization. You can't do mass personalization. And so for anybody who doesn't think you've been banging that drum for a while, they can go back 3 years ago to when I interviewed you on the B2B Sales Summit. So, so you guys want that? People used to pay for it. I'll give it to you for free because John was banging this drum 3 years ago. So I'll tell you that that's the truth. So let me ask you this question. So let's say that I'm a sales leader, right? And I'm trying to figure this out. And I'm like, okay, personal and relevant. Yeah, John, I get it. That makes sense. That's the way I answer solicitations to me.
Yep.
But personal, there are some statistics out there, like SalesLoft has the stat, you shouldn't spend more than 5 minutes personalizing, right? And the way that chart goes, it's either 20% personalization maximizes total open rates, or 80. In between is flat to declining.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about this then. So when you talk about personalization relevance, how do you manage that along with managing the idea that that sales reps are prone to go, hey, John said I should personalize this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send 10 emails a day because it takes me about 45 minutes to get this right. And then all of a sudden you have declining returns, your ROI goes to shit.
Yep.
So that's a teeter-totter we got to balance. So tell me how you view that.
First and foremost, you got to know who you should personalize to. Not all accounts deserve personalization, right? And that's why first and foremost, and this is actually part of the training I just got off of. And by the way, I can't see you anymore, Ken, so I don't know what's going on that end. But I can see me up in the corner, but I can't see you.
Okay.
But for first and foremost, I don't think that people look at their ICP enough, right? And really dig into the details of their ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
Most of us just get given a list. When we start a company, we just get given a list of, hey, John, these industries, this size, here you go. Here's your list of 1,000 accounts that's in your patch.
Yeah.
And most sales reps start from the top and they just start hammering through.
I think we need to do a lot more on really understanding that ideal customer profile and what are the nuances there so we can tier them out. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 1s, that's the quality. Those are the ones that I'm going to spend time doing research on, setting up on social media channels, following and listening to. The Tier 2s, that's where I can get the volume going on, but I need to be targeted, right? So it's not just a mass blast email. It's to VPs of sales in the SaaS industry that use Salesforce. That might be to list of 30 or 40 people, whatever. And then the Tier 3s are practice, so you can test some things out. So it starts there. Then with those accounts, because we want to look at it from an account basis, but also a person basis, right? So what's happening to the account, and then what is that person in the account that you're going after? Yeah. And when we look at the account, we can look at those triggers. Everybody's heard, what triggers, right? Open up a new office, launch a new product, like those type of things. And my recommendation is, and this is how you can do personalization efficiently, not scale, but efficiently, is pick 5 things, okay? Sit down with your team and say, okay, when we look at a website or when we go to somebody's LinkedIn profile, what are we looking for? Like, what happens in that business where if we see that thing happens, we can have a connection to it? And the easy ones, again, merger and acquisition, open up a new office, launch a new product, those type of things. So pick 5, right? Now, you can actually craft messaging around those 5 things, because every time somebody goes through a merger and acquisition, you can kind of say the same thing. Every time somebody launches a new product, you can kind of say the same thing. So we can craft messaging around those, but then leave that first sentence blank. So for instance, I have a merger and acquisition template, a new product template, a new office template, a new role template. And then that reads, hi, Ken, I saw your recent acquisition of customize. The reason that prompted me to reach out to you is because a lot of our clients who go through mergers and acquisitions leverage our solution in this way. That message can be the same. Yeah. So you personalize that first line, because I go back to kind of old school stuff here with Glenn Ross, right? In there, he talks about ABC, always be closing, but he also talks about AIDA, right? Attention, interest, desire, action. And that is the fundamental process of sales, right? First, something needs to get our attention, then we have to be interested, then we have to have a desire, then we have to move to act. Yeah. So the subject line gets my attention. The first sentence tells me whether or not I'm interested. Yeah. And what am I interested in? Me. Right. So how do you start that first sentence, especially with where we are? I mean, if you look at your iPhone, right? I can see the name of the I see the subject line, I see the first 10 words right there. If that isn't about me, I'm not interested. So how do you make it about me, right? Well, hey, John, I was on your website. I read this, whatever that is. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time for the rest of that stuff. So that's where that 20% comes in. And the more I think we refine that, the more we can split test and try different things out. Because if we have, for instance, say everybody say we've got 10 reps on the team, okay? And they all take their top 25 accounts and they go on like Owler or Google Alerts or whatever it is, and they follow those 25 accounts on mergers and acquisitions, okay? And we have a merger and acquisition template. So now, anytime we get pinged with any one of those accounts, it's going through a merger and acquisition. The rep opens up that merger and acquisition template, puts a little flavor on top of it, and sends it out. We can, in a couple of months, we're going to be able to figure out which one's working, whether it works or not. And then we'll dump it or leave it in, and then develop this repository of messaging that we're constantly testing based on things, so we can scale, but not by sending it out to 1 million people.
Okay, so let's tear apart this whole SDR thing then, right? So if you, we'll get to philosophical stuff. We're talking pretty tactical, and it's one of the things I love dialing in with you is because we can go, how do we actually do the thing? I think, there's so many consultants out there, and I'm going to bag our industry for a second, if you're okay with that.
Sure. Please do.
Please, somebody help me. I'm going to bag the industry like this because there's so many consultants out there who will do the why and the what, but they won't tell anybody how and what to do now. Right? That's the old training model from decades ago, right? Why, what, how, now. And everybody wants to go, hey, here's why you need to do it. Here's what you need to do. And then, oh, by the way, go figure your own stuff out. Right? And so that's irritating because you and I both talk to enough reps that we see that that's why they call us in, is because they've been struggling after 6 months of trying to figure this stuff out on their own. So one of the things that I want to talk about, so some of the stuff you're saying, so there's probably some people out there right now who are watching and are saying, well, okay, that's great, John, but I'm using SalesLoft, Outreach, name a sales engagement platform. And those sales engagement platforms say, hey, I want to do 15 steps over 15 business days, 30 days, whatever the metric is. So once again, how do you combine the conflict of personalization and relevancy against something like that as it's supposed to improve efficiency naturally?
So a couple of things. You have to pre-seed it. It's kind of, I forget who there's a quote, but if you had 4 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 3 hours sharpening my axe type of thing, right? Whatever. It's like Abraham Lincoln or something. I think it's along those lines. Yeah. And so what I think we need to do, first of all, is we need to break down the ICP, the triggers that connect to our ICP. And like I said, pick 5. Yeah. Then go after the personas. All right, what personas do we want to go after? Pick 3. Like for us, it's VPs of sales, CROs, VPs of enablement. Now, break down what these. So now you have triggers and you have personas. Yep. Now break up these into like, okay, so I got 5 triggers and I got 3 personas with 4 to 5 priorities, and this is where business acumen comes in. Yeah. Go literally do some research and Google CISOs. FinServe, Priorities Challenges 2020 COVID-19, like to find out what these people give a shit about today versus 6 months ago, right? Because their priorities have changed. Yeah. If you're listening to this, I promise you your ICP has changed, and I promise you the personas that you're reaching out to, their priorities have changed. So don't work off of your old stupid one-pager of Sally, she's a CIO and she likes innovation that you got when you got onboarded 2 years ago, because that is that's the baseline of that role. But what is Sally, the CIO, in today's world facing compared to what she was a year ago? Yeah. It's different. Extract what those priorities and challenges are, okay? Yeah. Then create messaging around this stuff. So we got a messaging formula that is your persona, so CIO, whatever it is, plus the priority challenge or trigger. So you open up a new office, you launch a new product, or you're trying to deal with work from home, whatever that thing is, plus the component of your solution that aligns with that, okay? Right. So that you could say, okay, for me, and right, I do sales training at the broadest level, but I have 2 programs. One's filling the funnel, the other's driving to close. But in those, I have messaging, meeting, email, phone, social selling, whatever, and meeting execution, negotiation, objection, closing, right? And then I have face-to-face live, and I also have online. So I have all these pieces of what I have. So what component of my solution aligns with that trigger, priority, or challenge? And then if they apply that component of my solution to that trigger, priority, or challenge, what would the result be? And we can come up with that formula right there. Allows us to create what I consider sales-ready messaging. So I can say, hey, Ken, the reason for my call today is we're showing VPs of sales like you whose main we're showing VPs of sales like you whose main priority is keeping reps motivated and engaged now that they're all working from home. How to keep them motivated and engaged using our live remote training that gives the reps actionable things to do while they work and collaborate as a team to drive results. And I'd like to have a conversation with you about that. Rinse, repeat, right? And if we do that message, and then we come up with what I'm playing around with these days is asking questions, very specific questions to your persona, right? That gets you to think, right? The goal there is to, remember AIDA. Well, that interest phase, I got to make it about you, right? So I can either personalize it, which takes time, or I can ask you a question that's super relevant to your persona. Right. So now, if I have a question and some messaging around that, hey, Ken, how are you keeping your reps motivated and engaged now that they're all working from home? The reason I ask is because many VPs who are are leveraging our solution to do this, and then I have my trigger-based messaging. Now, when I sit down to go do research on an account, now I'm a rep, right? So now I have this whole repository of trigger-based messaging, and I have a whole repository of persona-based messaging. Now I sit down and go after my account, and I say, all right, let me do some research. Let me see what I found here, right? And I'm going to beg everybody on this call, please do all your research at the same time. Don't do research, go down the rabbit hole, try to find one perfect thing and write one Mona Lisa-looking email, and then schedule another activity 3 or 4 days later. Because when that activity comes up, you're probably already 30 to 40 activities past due. And now you got to be thoughtful and come up with another, tailored, qualified, and somehow connected to that first one. Did you get my first email? Bubbling this one up. That's why that happens, right? But if you do all your research at the same time, you can now look for 4, 5, 6 different things. Then after you find those things, then you figure out the persona you want to go after. Now you have your trigger and your persona. So now, hey, where's my trigger-based messaging? Okay, cool. Where's my persona-based messaging? Okay, cool. Now my job as a sales rep is to tell the story. What's the first touch, second touch, third touch, fourth touch, fifth touch? Which ones are going to be calls? Which ones are going to be emails? Where am I going to bring social into this? And then I put it into SalesLoft. And then I press play, right? So 2 things you can do. I go deep on 5 accounts once a month where I do all my research at the same time, and I come up with a very tailored contact strategy for 5 accounts once a month. And then I pick a persona-driven cadence to run once a month to do volume. Right, so I'll do VPs of sales in SaaS industry. I'll come up with 6 or 7 different messages that speak to VPs of sales in the SaaS industry, asking questions, sharing content, and I'll run a list of 100 accounts, and I'll run them through that persona-driven cadence while I'm very tailored to the tier 1 targeted cadence approach.
Okay, and so it sounds like you are trying to do, and I know that I'm a big proponent to do it better before you do more anyway, right? And so that it certainly sounds like that's the case. It's interesting because there's so many people out there who just the conflict, and there's power dialers, and there's all these these other things out there. What do you think about power dialers? I just saw the visceral reaction, so let me hear it.
Well, I'm actually gonna change my opinion slightly on power dials. I used to absolutely hate them because I felt like it really just forced a generic approach. I felt like it was like, I put them. I'm not gonna name names, but I put one of them on like I'd never used one before, and I legitimately almost had a heart attack because I'm sitting there with the headset on and I'm just waiting for somebody to pick up, and I'm like, bing, oh shit, right? And I would have to like, right? So I used to hate them because with that, it forces you to be generic. It forces, hey, Ken, we're the leading provider of, right? Like, I don't know anything about you other than the fact that you just picked up my phone. So that's why I used to hate them. But now I'm actually not, I don't hate them. I don't love them. I don't hate them, though, because I think now the biggest challenge that I'm seeing with reps is connect rates.
Yeah.
Period.
They're plummeting.
I mean, I think Connect and Sell came out with a data point that said, like, on average, it took 100 dials to get 8 connects or something like that pre-COVID, and now it's like 800 dials to get 3 connects or something like that. I mean, it's just abysmal right now because nobody is having their work phone forwarded to their personal phone, so nobody's picking up. So if that's the case for your ICP and your personas, you might want to look into a tool like that. But my biggest recommendation is, as you run your list through those things, again, make them targeted. Make sure that every single name that you're calling during that auto dial session is to VPs of sales and SaaS. Because then you can come up with a message to VPs of sales and SaaS. You can come up with questions, and you come up with an example, and I can call all of them and say the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken, thanks for taking my call. The reason for my call today is we're showing VPs of sales how to rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And if you have it that way, then I think it's really valuable. But if you're just going to throw a list of names in there in your database and just rip through them, and it doesn't matter what persona, what industry, you're just trying to get connects, I think it's disastrous.
Yeah, it won't matter how much you connect because your response will suck.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I think what's interesting, the thing that always applies to me, and I honestly don't remember where I got this, so I've probably got to Google it to find it because I know that I've read it multiple times. So it must be true. It was on Google, John.
Of course.
Is that 1 to 2% of your viable market is looking for your solution at any given time, whereas 4 to 8 would be open to it. Mm-hmm. Right? And so that's kind of the issue. And I think the thing that reps miss often, and so does management, is by going through and just trying to fire off as quickly as possible, they're stuck at the 1 to 2.
Yeah.
And the way you exponentially increase sales is by doubling or tripling the market size of people who are willing to talk to you.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's, and by the way, with the spam approach, you crush your addressable market. You might send out 5,000 emails and get 10 meetings out of it. You just probably piss off 4,990 people.
Yeah.
And so you do that enough, and you're going to start hurting your chances, and people are going to start putting you in the spam filters again. And so I think going after and being more thoughtful and those type of things is just, and also taking a page out of marketing, right? Because I think we need to, and you see Gary Vee right there on the bottom left of the screen right there. He's got that book, Jab, 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 Right Hook.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to take a little bit of a page out of marketing these days, where we as sales reps are always tend to be asking, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. What's the best way to get 15 minutes on your calendar? Who's the best person to speak with about this? We got to back off a little bit and jab a little bit more by sharing content. And also, it's an impression game today. To your point, 1% is in the addressable, is in the buying phase. But guess what? If you caught them at the right time where they are looking for this, first of all, I'd be a little worried because you didn't get that inbound lead.
Right.
Second of all, they probably are talking to 3 or 4 other vendors that they've identified. So now you're already playing catch up as it is, right? So the idea to me right now is nurturing, right? Sending an email, making a phone call, sending some content. So all these touches, if you will, make a positive impression. So when you are ready, when you are in that address, when you're in that mode to buy, I'm the one you call. All right.
Right.
And that's where it's important for us to really think about that personal brand building, the sharing content, but doing it in a thoughtful way. I like all these, and just, I don't know, getting it to the point where they see us as somebody who's not just always trying to sell them some piece of crap because we think we're the leading provider of, but we're actually trying to add value into this audience, right? And Ken, you can back me up on this, right? Run your own little company here, right?
Yeah, we do some stuff.
All right, you're out there on LinkedIn, you're doing your thing, right? You're not
I'm
hiding,
clearly not a tech guy, as we found out today, but a whole nother conversation.
but you're not hiding, right? You're not hiding in any way, shape, or form, right?
No.
Think about it. When was the last time you got a thoughtful multi-touch contact strategy that consisted of more than, hey, did you get my first email, bubbling this one up to the top type of crap, but thought, was about a podcast that they read, listen to yours, or something you posted out there, shared maybe a piece of content, referenced something you were doing with a client. Like, when was the last time that's happened?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, so what you're saying is when somebody says to me on LinkedIn, "Can I talk to you because I connected with you?" That's not thoughtful.
No. Yeah, right. I mean, obviously not. And that's the problem, is that I talk to executives all the time. And going back to, I got 2,040 emails, not one of them was personalized. I talk to VPs of sales, CEOs all the time, and I ask them the exact question I just asked you, and 95% of them can't remember the last time that they were reached out to in a thoughtful multi-touch context, right? But the 5% that do know exactly who the rep was, what they did, what they were selling, and when it happened. You can literally see them light up. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember like 6 months ago, this kid from XYZ company reached out to me, did this, did that, did this. And I got something in the mail, and I like after like the fifth or sixth touch, like I almost felt an obligation to get back to this kid."
Yeah.
So it's actually, yes, it's harder now because the volume is just significant and it's just deafening right now, but it's actually not that hard if you just give a shit a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Just care a little bit about somebody besides yourself.
Hey.
They've got everybody's, it's one of the things I always tell people, right? I'm only qualified to solve a certain set of problems, right?
Yep.
So they have a set of problems I'm uniquely qualified to solve. So let's just go figure out if they actually have the problem.
Yeah. And actually, disqualify more than qualify these days. I think if you shift that mindset of finding the reasons why they shouldn't do business with you is actually more powerful than finding the reasons they should. Because first of all, they're going to find out all the reasons they shouldn't do business with you throughout the sales process anyways.
Right.
But if you put on that genuine curiosity that I want to make sure that this is the right fit mentality, and I don't know whether it is or not, I do need to ask you a few questions to see if you fit, then you start to put yourself in that. I mean, I don't know about you. I turn down far more business than I take on.
Yep.
Because it's just not the right fit. But so many reps are forced to hit the number, got to do this, got to get a certain amount of meetings, that they skip over the step of whether this is really matters or not. Because somebody said, sure, they got some problems with sales, so I'm going to flip that over to my AE and, see what happens there. So, the thoughtful, less is more, spend more time. And look, I get it. I understand most sales reps out there are saying, yeah, John, that sounds fantastic, but my boss is still whacking me over the head telling me to hit 50 dials a day. So, thanks, dude, but I need a job. What I'm going to say is to you is everybody's got a side hustle these days. Everybody talks about side hustle. You do side hustle, right? Well, make your side hustle your job.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the sense of, if your boss is asking you to make 50 dials a day, okay, do it. Track every single one of those calls, though, and the conversion ratios of those calls. And then after work, heaven forbid we have to ask people to work after hours these days, holy shit. But from like 5 to 6.
You mean, wait, is that now with COVID, though, isn't after hours start at like 2?
Yeah, no shit, right? I mean, the work ethic piece, man, I will say that's the one thing I'm a little bit nervous about these days. Because when I did face-to-face training, I would usually do 8:30 to 4:30 or something like that. And from 4:30 to 5, I'd usually take, questions and from the team and whatever. And then 5 to 6, I'd usually check emails and make sure that, and right before at 5:30 would leave for the airport, right? Almost every company I'd ever go train at 5:30, the place is a ghost town, like straight ghost town. So I'm assuming that's worse now with people working from home. So, but heaven forbid, from 5 to 6, pick 5 accounts that you're going to go deep on and you're going to do research on and you're going to be very thoughtful about. Okay. And for like 2 to 3 weeks, run that experiment. Go 50 dials a day based on what my boss is telling me, but track every single conversion ratio, every single conversation and what happened to those. And then pick 5 accounts a day afterwards and go deep on them, and then come with data and say, hey, boss, and hopefully the data shows this side, I got a 1% conversion ratio here. I got a 6 to 8% conversion ratio here. Boss, which one do you want me to do more?
Yeah.
First of all, I promise you, if you do that as a rep, you will immediately become your boss's favorite rep. And if you don't, and if they lean on you to make 50 dials a day, go find another job.
No, I got a better idea. If they don't, call me or John, and we'll get you a job.
There you go.
Exactly. I have SDRs that work for me.
Yep.
Come work for me. I'm done. Right. So, well, good. So we've been on a minute here, John. And so what I want to do is, I really appreciate you taking the time, because I've always loved our conversations. But I think with the way I'd like to kind of wrap on the final thoughts on this is to talk about how that SDR role specifically has begun to change. And I'd love to kind of hit it from two angles real quick. And one of them is how managers and leaders should look at that role. And then how SDRs themselves should look at maybe the time in that role. If that isn't a leading question, I don't know what is. So I'll let you take a crack at it, and then I'll have some color for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I called up Trish Bertuzzi a while back, and because I was nervous back in March, April timeframe, I was seeing companies just hack their SDR teams, like with no, like just, oh my God. Because look, in a growth economy, in a general sense here, in a growth economy, the SDR model makes all the sense in the world. Okay, because it's yes, they got to get qualified meetings, but it's a seed feeder system for AEs, so we can cultivate and build our teams, right, at relatively cheap numbers. The problem is that in a down economy, like that stuff's hard to quantify, right, from a measurability standpoint. And most executives, specifically VPs of sales, are very bad at metrics and understanding, and tracking all the stuff outside of forecast and accuracy and those type of things. So now when a down economy hits and the CFO comes knocking and says, hey, our numbers are down on the SDR front. We're not getting as many qualified meetings that are leading to revenue here. Could you help me understand why are we paying these SDRs to make these calls these days when they're producing no results? And the VP of sales, well, I know they're good kids. They're working hard and da 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 da. It's like I'm a CFO. I'm gonna be like, yeah, they're good kids. That's nice, but we're hemorrhaging money as a company right now. Sorry. I mean, I saw that, and I'm gonna have this kid on. I saw that the number one SDR at Glassdoor posted on LinkedIn his actual SDR of the year award for last year. And he said, I just got fired. I just got laid off. The number one SDR in the company. Right. See you later. And so I think we do need to. So I called up Trish. We had this podcast, I was asking her, like, what does this mean for SDRs? Are they screwed now pretty much? Because now people are leaning on AEs to make calls and account-based marketing and all this other stuff. And she said something that I thought was really important. We got into this discussion, which is to your point of leadership, they have to start looking at the SDR org differently. It's not necessarily that feeder system, and the primary goal is to get a qualified meeting with a senior executive who's in the buying cycle. Okay, it's data intelligence, it's market intelligence, it's almost a little bit more of the marketing role, where again, going back to the impressions. Now we're finding that SDR is doing groundswell and creating heat at the bottom layers and gaining information from the account at literally the root level, and then bubbling that up to the AE that then uses that to have a real conversation is almost as valuable as getting that immediate call with a CISO or whoever it is that's in the buying cycle. Because data, so meetings that drive revenue is obviously the most important thing right now. But the secondary thing that I think is really important is insights. And who's better at gaining insights about the market than SDRs? They're trained to collect information. So what we're doing right now, for instance, like Morgan and James on my team, Morgan is my AE, James is my SDR. What we're doing now is we're doing bottom up instead of top down, where James, for a week, we're picking one account once a week. And I know companies have to do more than that, but we pick one account once a week where James legit calls, he does research on the account, looks for all these different things, but he also calls into the frontline sales reps and asks them, hey, what are you doing here? What are some of the challenges you're faced with, whatever. And his goal is to talk to, through LinkedIn or whoever, 10 to 15 individual contributors in that organization. And then at the end of the week, Morgan and James get together and they start strategizing, and they say, okay, Morgan's like, all right, what'd you learn? All right, well, this is the main challenges. Here's the trends. Now, Morgan then uses that to craft some messaging up to the executive level with real intel, not guessing intel, real intel. And that right there is huge. So that's where I think leaders need to kind of reassess where they see the value of an SDR outside of just getting pure meetings that lead to revenue. As far as an SDR is concerned and how they should be looking at their career, I don't think that SDRs are I don't think it is a foregone conclusion that an SDR has to move into an AE position anymore. I think it's something that I see too often, that I ask reps, why do you want to be an AE? And they're like, well, because that's the next stage of this career, right? Like that's what I'm supposed to do. Well, do you really understand do you like being on the phones? Do you like actually having conversations? Do you enjoy this? And yeah, I really like this. Well, do you realize it's a hell of a lot different as an AE, where this is what you're going to have to do and this is what they're going to ask you? Do you want that? And when you really break down the role of what they're responsible for, a lot of them are like, no, actually that does not sound So why not look at your career path as marketing operations or sales or lifelong SDR? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it's an extremely valuable position. And if you get really good at it, you can be a sniper. You know what I mean? Like you can go from one business to the next and say, look, this is exactly to your point earlier. Like this is what I do. I solve these problems and I'm great at it. And you're going to pay me for it. Yeah. Right. So I think they should look at it as a little bit of a first of all, options, but second of all, your leading question of how much time, right? Don't be in a rush. Get a long career.
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
I mean, Trish, the stats on this were like Bridge Group came out with this 2 years ago that said like SDRs who leave who get promoted within 6 months, the error rate or the failure rate from SDR to AE under 6 months was something like 85%, like some absurd number of failure.
Yeah.
If they lasted 18 months, right, so a year and a half, the failure rate was like 8%.
Yeah, gotta be. Makes perfect sense. My contention has always been this. My contention with SDRs is this, and we'll go to trainings with them, same kind of thing. We've done some similar stuff to kind of how you guys go to market. And I've always said, stay in the role more than 18 months, and I promise you that it will make you hundreds of thousands of dollars more over your career.
Absolutely.
Because
I mean, look,
even as a BDM or an AE, you can still go sell some more stuff.
Well, and prospecting, if there's one skill I would get great at, I don't care where you are in your career, it's prospecting. Yeah. Because you know what kills me is when I see AEs, let's put it this way, I'm guessing you're the same from a mentality standpoint. If an AE ever walked into my office and I was a manager of them and they tell me that the reason they missed their quota was because their SDR didn't get them enough meetings, before that sentence even came out of their mouth, I would fire them. Yeah. I'd be like, wait a minute, what? You're relying on somebody else for your success? Like, look, I want to bake my own cake here. Whatever I get from inbound and marketing and all that, that's the icing. Yeah. Okay. That's going to make it taste really good. That's going to hit my accelerators. But if I don't own my own success, then what the fuck am I doing here? Yeah. And look, I found one solution to every other problem at every other stage of the sales process, right? Negotiations, discounting, all that stuff. All right. There's one solution to all of it, and it's a big fat pipeline.
Yeah.
If you got a big fat pipeline, you don't have to try too hard at the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, you don't
because
I want to put
myself.
Yeah.
No, because I want to put myself in a position where I want your business. I don't need it.
Yep.
And when I want your business, I sell the right way. When I need your business, I do some shady shit.
Yeah, yeah. So, and ownership and accountability. You know, I'll often say to people, the sales reps are pressing me on whether or not their SDR is doing it, whether or not they're having problems with software engineers, all this stuff. And I'll say, let me ask you a question. So you're going to make this decision, which is going to kill a deal. Are you okay if you get fired because you don't make quota because you chose not to sell because you were worried about somebody else getting in the way?
Right.
That makes sense. I'd say the last thing, and I'll add one thing on here and then take any final thoughts you have for the world. And when it comes to sales management, the other thing I would say, and I would say that it goes to one of your points, and I'm going a different direction with what I think they need to do different.
Yep.
You said sales managers are not good. They're not good at attribution, right? They're not good at saying, my team created this, which went to this. And here's the truth of the matter. The math, when you do it correctly, the actual lifetime value of a customer, especially say you're in a SaaS model and then you're in a model that has a good professional services team that actually has upsell and cross-sells that are happening on the back end of the deal, right? And then let's just say you're a public company now and you can get valued at 15 to 18 times.
Yep.
If you're a sales leader and you want your CFO off your back, talk about the enterprise value that each new lead creates that comes through the SDR team. Because that's what they're there for. So it's just another way to skin the cat, especially when you're talking to people from outside. It's sort of the same reason, like I would assume you're the same thing. It's the same reason you put in a model on how to personalize and be relevant, or a model and how to do the sales process, because then it's not this black box that everybody else outside of sales is scared of.
Right.
Repeatable, trainable, etc. So, but love to take your comments on the way out if there's anything you want to do, and then we'll shut this thing down.
I mean, I think that last comment did it as far as just reinforcing the be a scientist. You know what I mean? Right now, we need to, for instance, every deal that comes in right now that closes, if I was an organization, I would be dissecting the hell out of that deal. I would put the AE up on a screen like this, and I would have the whole team there, and I'd be like, all right, where did this lead come from? What was the use case? What were their challenges? Who was the persona, right? So you can extract as much of that intel as you can, so you can go find other companies like that, right? Go talk to the existing customers. You brought up customer success. Bring in existing customers of your persona. Have them sit up on a screen like this and have your sales team ask them, hey, what's changed in your life? How are you using our product now compared to what you were using? What value do you get out of it today compared to 6 months ago? What would you not live without? If we were to approach you right now, what questions would be good questions to ask? What messaging would resonate? So you learn, right? And then test. Like use your team to split test different approaches. Going back to that persona-driven cadence recommendation, you have a little lunch and learn the first business day of every month. Okay, break up into groups of 3 or 4 people each, right? So say there's 10, let's call it 15 people on your team, 5 groups of 3. This group take that persona, that group take that persona, this group take that persona. Everybody do some research, figure out what those new priorities are, come up with a cadence that fits that persona, that speaks their language, and then everybody run a list of 20 or 30 accounts in that persona of that persona that they can run this cadence to and get the numbers up to a statistically relevant number so that we can actually test, right? Yeah. And then first email goes out, 50 or 100 of them, whatever. Second email, third becomes a call. Now that's a call blitz, and everybody's calling into the same persona with the same message. And then at the end, you take a look at the data and you say, okay, what messages worked, which ones didn't? Let's keep the stuff that worked. Let's dump the stuff that doesn't. And just constantly be testing different things on a regular basis. First of all, it makes it more interesting, right? Because for those of you out there who listen to this who are SDRs, look, the SDR role, what made it, I wrote a post on this. I think the SDR role is the hardest role in sales. Okay. It's to find that needle in the haystack. It's brutal. What made it tolerable back before COVID was that we were all sitting in a bullpen, all getting our asses kicked together. So when I made a call and just got shredded, I could look at you, Ken, and be like, dude, did you just hear that? That was fucking brutal. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I got to take a walk. You want to grab some coffee? Like, let's grab a drink. And that camaraderie made it kind of, all right, whatever. We're all in this together type of thing. But now those SDRs are sitting at home by themselves. Yeah. And they're getting their asses kicked. And if you don't come up with a way to keep them motivated and have them start to pay attention, learn things on a consistent basis, you will lose them both mentally and physically. Yeah. So we have to get into that mode of testing and trying. And that's a way that I think we can all come together on this and actually feedback through marketing as well. That data goes right back into marketing to reset our ICP, to find better clients that we could have better messages to. Like, it just all fits if you do it the right way.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. That is a fantastic way to go out and great advice for them. So I want to thank everybody who's watched us on this live stream, especially those of you who were around for the first 3 minutes while Ken was showing his lack of technical prowess while he was trying to get John on here so you could see John's, great haircut. But we appreciate it. So check it out. Make sure you check out John Barrow's stuff. If you don't know him for some reason, then you've been kind of a little bit lost. I'll make sure I drop all of his contact information in the various comments of each of these videos on the social platforms. So check John out, and we're out of here. We'll see y'all later. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.